Hey, what's up? It is Mike coming to you guys with another episode of Keep It Moving Podcast. Of course, you guys know I don't do the show alone. As always, the beautiful co-host Novelty is here with me.
Hello.
No JT. JT actually reached out to us this time and let us know, hey, you know what?
I don't like y'all.
Y'all keep doing what you're doing. I'm out for a little bit. He took a hiatus. So, it's official. We don't have to worry. Where's JT? When is he coming back? But what was funny, he took a break from this show and then came back to our show. I was like, I thought you was on hiatus from everything. But he came back. I was glad. The people were glad to see him because they hadn't seen him in, a month or two or whatever. So it was good to have him back. Unfortunately, he took a break from this show. And I think it has everything to do with Novelty. I'm sure you guys y'all see how they interact. Y'all know how they get along.
Whatever.
I'm just keeping it real. It shouldn't be a super long show for you guys today. And it's kind of like heavy topics, I believe, or not really fun topics. So before we get into what we're going to talk about on the show, a real quick question to you people out there. Christmas is around the corner. And Novelty and myself, Novelty, usually she's the one who's talking about things outside of like family related things. And you mentioned what to buy a 6-year-old or a kid for Christmas. And
my question was, what kind of video game could you get for a 6-year-old boy?
And you also mentioned, so that's a question that you can throw out there. Like, what do anybody have any recommendations? Kid-friendly games, PlayStation. I'm assuming PlayStation 4 because that's the newest console. Ain't nobody making games for PlayStation. But you also mentioned that someone recommended shoes. I'm like, hey, just get them some shoes. And I'm of the impression, buy the kids what they need. Who gives a damn about what they want, especially if they're not your kids?
It's Christmas. When they open presents, they should be excited and get what they want, not what they need. They get what they need. It's kind of like buying a woman a gift. When you buy your wife a gift, if you bring her home a toaster, you go get your butt beat.
Not only a toaster, probably a new microwave because she's been pushing the buttons wrong.
You
will
never get a home cooked meal again.
A bread maker, some house shoes because her feet have been kind of rough a little bit. So we're trying to rectify that situation. Things that she needs and she didn't know.
You will not get a home cooked meal and you won't have sex.
It's
Just
the thought that counts.
That.
And I think she would appreciate that.
It is the thought that counts. You didn't think to get her anything she wanted. You got her a bunch of stuff for the house that everybody's going to use.
If I didn't know, this is the thing. You don't know what the kid wants. If I know, then I can take a chance on getting that. But if I don't
know he wants a video game. I just don't know what video game to get him that is kid friendly.
I wouldn't get him a video game.
And then I'm going through the aisles
I get him some
at
clothes.
The toy store, and I notice all the boys' toys are fighting.
That's what we do.
I'm like, and you wonder why society, grown men don't want to do nothing but fight.
Well, you have to learn. You got to learn at a young age to protect your family.
Whatever.
You can get him a grocery store gift card.
A grocery store gift card for a 6-year-old.
Hey, I'm just saying it's thoughtful. You can tell him go with your mama, and y'all can pick out whatever snacks you want. I think a kid would appreciate it.
I would never ask
how many
you
times
for advice
I went to the grocery
again.
store and wish I could just pick out and get whatever I wanted to as a kid.
But
we couldn't touch nothing.
If your auntie gave you Christmas morning, you opened up your gift and it was a plastic card, and you 6 years old and you don't understand what it does, you wasn't getting ready to be excited.
Well, once she explained to me what it was,
you still wouldn't be excited.
I'm excited. I'm cool. I'm ready to go to the store.
Whatever.
Anyway. Also, Thanksgiving just passed. Which
yummy.
And you see how we did that? We started talking about Christmas because it's on the way, and not talk about Thanksgiving, which just passed. Right. Which happens in society. Like, people kind of brush over Thanksgiving. Right after Halloween, they start putting out Christmas stuff. Nobody puts out fall things or like anything that's related to Thanksgiving, except for maybe the week of. People start talking about food.
I used to, and I have like some little Thanksgiving porch buddies. They basically stand on your porch and it's a scarecrow, and I had one of those cornucopia things you set out, but
I have no idea what that is.
It's this funny looking shell that kind of looks like a turkey and it curls. I had to show you a picture of it.
Okay.
And it's got like veggies and fruits
Oh,
and
coming
stuff
out
that
of
coming
it.
out of it.
Okay. I can picture what you're talking about. Almost like the like a horn shaped almost. Okay.
But what I found is I'd have to make sure that I was out to pick up the Halloween stuff as soon as Halloween was over, and then get it out quickly enough so it would have a chance to really sit out and kind of be there. And then right after Thanksgiving, a lot of people decorate their trees Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
So come Thanksgiving Day, while you doing all the cooking and preparing and getting ready for people, then I'd have to go clear it all out to start getting the Christmas stuff out. And it was just too much. It started becoming too much. And that's why I stopped doing it.
Well, the time you're putting on that pressure you're putting on yourself. You can leave your Thanksgiving stuff throughout Christmas. Ain't nobody making you rush to go and put your stuff away.
Anyway, that's why I stopped
You
doing
remember
it.
when I did have my Christmas tree up, I remember I kept my Christmas tree almost a year just sitting in the corner. It wasn't bothering nobody. People would comment on it. Like, why in the hell is that tree still up?
There you go.
But it was, did it make a difference? Did it
No,
ruin
it stood
anybody?
right there in that corner.
It was a conversation piece, which, I'm not really inviting as far as a conversation is concerned, but it wasn't bothering me. And I make the rules in this house. See, that's what you need to learn.
Anyway.
You can make your own rules in your own house.
Anyway, so I don't put up Thanksgiving stuff now because of that short time window.
The rules that you made for yourself.
The rules I made for myself and my household, and
the rules that you made for yourself that also frustrate you.
The things I want to do. No, they don't frustrate me because now I just don't put up the Thanksgiving stuff.
That frustrates
Frustration
me.
ended. It frustrates you.
Because you become like these other people who just ignore Thanksgiving until it's time to eat.
I don't ignore Thanksgiving. I don't ignore Thanksgiving at all. I don't spend Thanksgiving thinking about turkeys and all the things I'm thankful for. I spend Thanksgiving and I look back on the Indians and Native Americans and everything that they did in order to teach the white man who came over here and took their land how to survive on this land. And I'm thankful to the Native Americans. I don't look at Thanksgiving as the big holiday that we normally look at it as.
Mm-hmm. Which especially this year, that's been a really hot topic, talking about the North Dakota pipeline or whatever, the access pipeline. Mm-hmm. And we saw, like, right before Thanksgiving, I think temperatures had gotten real low, and they had showing police officers or whoever's out there trying to monitor this whole situation, spraying water on them, saying that they were trying to put out fires or whatever. And like, it's freezing temperatures out, and you're spraying these people with water cannons. Like, this. Again, this is the America that we thought we had moved past, and they're still using the same tactics that they used on black folk when it was, they were trying to promote segregation and didn't want to give us civil rights. This is 2016, and we're still dealing with the same bull crap that we dealt with back then.
Right.
Which kind of leads us into one of the things I wanted to talk about, it was recommended from Shantae Washington. So shout out to you on our Facebook page. If you guys are not or you have not found us on Facebook and click that like button, please do so. We do share more than just politics. I know, Novelty can be a little heavy on the political side, but there are other things over there that'll make you smile. But shout out to Shantae. She's a fan over there. She recommended or asked us about this documentary on Netflix called The 13th. And it talks about the 13th Amendment, which was supposed to abolish slavery. But it had like an additional line in there saying, there will be no slaves except in the event that somebody is basically a criminal or deemed to be a criminal.
I don't think it says that there'll be no slaves. It just there will be no slaves. The 13th Amendment does say that, but it was specific to locking up and caging people. Uh-huh. It was very specific to that, and that's where the loophole is. Oh, we can do that if you're a convict. If you are a criminal and you've done something outside of the criminal justice system.
And the documentary goes on and explains how we went from, I guess, being regular slaves into being a part of the prison system, which then they get free labor from people, and how they made like all the rules started to change in order to make sure that the prison systems were filled predominantly with minorities and people of color in order to make sure that we were still looked and felt lesser than, still breaking up our communities. It was a lot going on in this documentary, a lot that I'm sure if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it, but a lot that makes you think.
I mean, you got to remember that all of this was about money. I mean,
Right.
And that's all this ever is about money. Every single thing that happens in this government is about money. And so when these changes, when the amendment was written, I don't think it was purposely written for there to be this loophole.
Yeah.
It was just, oh, okay, so if they're criminals and they're convicted and in jail, then we can make them do whatever we want. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do this to the people we don't like. Because guess what? Now the South, I mean, think about it. After slavery was abolished, the southern states lost everything.
Right.
If everything they were was dependent upon slavery.
Right.
That was the whole point of the Civil War. It wasn't necessarily the enslavement of people, it was the survival of their economic system.
Yeah.
So their economic system completely failed. So they had to figure out how they were going to rebuild that economic system.
And somebody came up with it seemed like pretty quickly. Like, oh, but wait.
We don't like these niggers anyway.
Right.
Let's put them in behind bars.
And then
make them work for us anyway. And to this day, that system is still in place. And it's the same thing. We are still an enslaved people. It's just you're enslaved within the prison system. And not only that, people still look at them as second-rate citizens. I mean, think about it. Look at how you view a convict. If somebody said to you they had been in jail for murder, your first thought and question is not going to be, did you do it? You're going to walk away because now you automatically have this perception of this person as being a very bad person.
Right.
And that's
because that's the picture.
Color.
That's the picture that they've painted.
Correct. That's the picture that they've painted, regardless of whether or not they did it or not, regardless of whether or not they did it for survival and they were standing their ground. It doesn't matter. The reason why is just automatically, I'm a murderer. And you're deemed with that. You're branded with that. And then the other thing is they also take away, for any felon, you lose the right to vote.
And I think, I don't know if it was the last episode or that we talked about this or the episode before that, but you went on a rant talking about, about, them, why do you take away the right for them to vote when they're still citizens? So like, what does the one have to do with the other? And I was mentioning, maybe they feel like since you were dumb enough to commit this crime that you're not smart enough to make a conscious or a correct decision or whatever. But we see that they did it purposefully.
Intentionally.
In order to make
within this system.
Right.
It's an eye opener. It really is.
And I like how they went through the different presidencies and then showed you how the rhetoric kind of changed a little bit, but how they basically played to the fears of people and, pushed the same type of it. What was interesting, though, the most to me, was watching, Nixon get up there and talk and Reagan get up there and talk and then look back to what we just went through as far as the 2016 presidential election campaign. Mm-hmm. Hearing some of those same words, some of the same bull crap that they were spewing back then, and it worked back then. And we saw it work this time again because people, well, I would say white people, fear black people. White people, I guess, will always look at many black people as criminals no matter what they do, what they've done.
But that's because it's what they're taught. They're taught that from day one. Our educational system teaches that. I mean, look at the public education system. What do you learn about black people, black Americans in a textbook in a history course? Just a regular history course.
About slavery.
That's the only thing you learn about black people is slavery. So it's this fear that is continuously taught.
But even if you are only learning about slavery, you're not learning, I mean, that's people being mistreated, people being treated as less than. Like, how is that? Where's the criminality?
Because the criminality comes in news. The criminality comes.
Now, I agree with that.
I mean, that's the only image of black people. I mean, think about it. If you live in an area that is predominantly white, you got maybe a black neighbor here and a black neighbor there. Or even we can even back up and just say, look at black people. We live in our neighborhoods and there are barely any white people there. But when white people start infiltrating the neighborhood and coming into the neighborhood, you're looking at them like what they up to.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't live around them, you don't understand them. You don't know. So the only image or the only thought you're going to have of that person, the only perception you can make is what you saw on television. And in the media, mainstream media, whether it's mainstream, it doesn't matter what media you're talking about. Mm-hmm. When it comes to media runs off of advertising. They want advertising dollars. They want people to watch. So they're going to show people what they want to see, not necessarily what is truth. Now, doesn't mean that they necessarily lie. They just tell you a portion of the story.
Right.
So they're giving you
whichever is more glamorous.
Whichever is
almost
more
damaging.
sensational.
Yeah.
So they give you a piece of a story. And so you see Johnny Paul comes out of his house, goes down the street, pulls a gun out of his pocket in front of the drugstore. So you automatically thinking this guy's getting ready to rob the place. And that's where the media stops. But they don't say Johnny comes down the street, realizes he got a gun in his pocket, pulls it out, sticks it in his car, and then goes in. You miss a portion of the story to understand, and that's what they do. So in the media, black people are deemed as rapists. They are deemed as murderers. Look at all these white men who've been killing police. You haven't heard about them in the media, but you hear about the black men. I just saw a story on. I want to see the local ABC affiliate here. They were talking about how 12 men were arrested in this.
Sting?
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Sting of child slavery right here. And 12 men arrested. They only show one man on camera over and over and over. It's a black man.
The rest were white?
You don't know? Well, no. I mean, for real, I don't know. But
okay.
I can only assume the rest were white. You never heard their names. You never heard them talk about anybody else. They just kept showing this one man.
Was he supposed to be the ringleader or something like that?
No, he was just a man in the background, and they had him on camera, and they just kept showing that one man. And it wasn't like they didn't have footage. They had footage from everywhere because they had hidden cameras. Mm-hmm. But they just kept showing this one black man. And that's what you see. So when that's what the media presents to you, you are fearful of it. And all you learn in history about black people is they were slaves. They were proud over here. Then there was a civil rights movement. Martin Luther King marched. The Black Panthers were bad. The FBI wanted Malcolm X. So you automatically start thinking, okay, this must be what these people are about.
Right.
Until you actually get to know them. The lady from Sex and the City, I cannot remember her name, but she adopted a black daughter. And she talks about how after Trump got elected, she says, I know I grew up in a white privileged society. I understood that. I lived around white racists. I understood that when I adopted my daughter. I knew what I was doing. I understood that. She said, but now with Trump president, I understand things so much more. She says you will never understand what it's like until you have a child that is your heart that you worry about. So I think for a lot of white people, the only way for them to really understand is for them to have a child that is dependent upon them, that they love more than anything. And then they kind of start to get, oh, this is what black people are worried about. This is what they mean when they say white privilege. I think you just you come up with a different sense of understanding when you have a child whose life you're fearing for versus your neighbor or your friend.
Because you can still separate yourself from that situation.
True. You can't separate yourself from your child.
It also, they brought up the Hillary Clinton and the super predator, and it reminded me of the conversation that you and I had about one of your friends who didn't want to vote for her because of that. And I just thought it was interesting, like I said, to see the different presidents. And at one point, Bill Clinton was pushing for that, what was Crime Act of 1994 or something like that? Crime Bill of 1994.
The crime bill, I know it was the 3 strikes law was in it.
Yeah,
mandatory minimums are in it. Yes, and they are in place.
And him coming back later on, realizing that, hey, I thought it was a good idea back then. I realize now that it was a mistake and it was wrong because the problem hasn't been fixed, and it's been basically shifted to focus on one particular group of people, which is pretty much black people. Versus and it pisses me off because we keep seeing, over and over, especially in 2016, rapists and people, murderers, whether they're police officers, whether they're regular citizens, getting off because the judge felt like, you know what, it's you still have a chance. I feel like there's still humanity in you, but when it's a black person, they don't see anything but this criminal that society has painted us to be since forever.
Well, and it's funny because that crime bill, one of the things that pushed it into law, pushed him to sign it, was Polly Klaas when she was killed. She was murdered. Mm-hmm. But she was murdered by a white man.
Yeah.
And yet it affected black people the worst.
Because I don't think people are looking so much at the bill itself. I think people are using the bill in order to perpetuate their stereotypes.
Situation. Correct. And not only that, they're using it to perpetuate the system that they put in place that gives them the privilege.
Right.
And so although Clinton signed it into law, like he said, he did apologize. I don't think that every president who signs something into law, it's like looking into the future. You can't know for sure everything that's going to happen.
Right. And whether it's going to work out the way you see it in your mind.
Right. And when that law was presented, even to the people, it sounded good because black Americans wanted it.
Yeah.
If you stop and go back to your grandmas, your mamas, and ask them, did you want this in place back then? Most of them are going to say, most black people are going to say yes, because we were fearful for our children's lives. People were dying left and right. We were worried about our children. So yeah, they wanted this in place, but nobody saw the 3 strikes rule, the 3 strikes law affecting black people the way it did because, or at least not, let's rephrase, most people, because it's somebody back there that does. They know what they're doing. They know what the system that they're playing and they're manipulating.
Right. And they're doing it purposefully.
Right. And a lot of times, I don't think that every president is mindful of everything that's going on. Think about it right now. Donald Trump's coming into office. He's surrounding himself with people who supposedly know how this stuff works. These are people who are going to advise him on things to do. And these are the people that we have to question. What do they know? Because they're the ones telling him how to respond and how to react to that. Clinton had those same advisors. Both Bushes had those same advisors, Nixon and all of that. So I don't think that all of these presidents are necessarily just people who hate black people. I think they're just in a system. They fall into a system that plays out in a certain way because of the people who know that system well and who spend all of their lives working to manipulate that system.
Right. And for the most part, we can call those people nowadays lobbyists, which I think they talked about that towards the end of the documentary when they were talking about ALEC, which evidently a lot of companies were on board. And they are, I guess, so influential that they're helping pass laws. And I think they were the ones who were pushing for, one of the things they were pushing for was the stop and frisk. They were the ones who were influential in trying to help, I guess, pad these prisons. They were the ones, I guess they say, wrote the bill about the crime bill of 1994.
Right, because one of the commissions for convicts, I think it was called, it was a prison system. One of the prison systems
CCA,
was part of their group.
Right.
And they were doing things to ensure that prison system made money.
Right. Because they needed money for their shareholders. And then when that prison system, fell through or whatever, and they stopped pushing the prisons, they started pushing parole.
Now they're trying to push parole, and so they're getting ready to trying to mess with the parole laws. And
which I mean,
when you privatize anything like prisons, or utilities that people have to have, like water, excuse me, like water and gas. When you privatize those kind of things and you put them in a situation where somebody can make a profit for them, people come out of people stop being the factor, and money becomes the factor. Anything that is business related is about money. And so we've got to pull those things out of the hands of private citizens, put them back in the government's hands. It means, yes, the government is going to have to hire people to fill positions and fill jobs. But I think ultimately taxes won't have to be raised, and people will save money. And if taxes do have to go up to cover some of it, people will still save money on the back end on bills. That it won't be, it'll kind of be one will offset the other.
But imagine all the money that these the private companies are making for the shareholders, but that being made by the government. So I don't understand why taxes would have to go up.
And
it should be going back into the
community. So I think my thought process is get those things, the things that people have to have. Right now, I heard, and this is just something I heard, it was a brief reading and I haven't gotten too much background information on it, but Nestle is trying to privatize water.
Oh, I heard something about that.
And their argument is people don't have a right to water. It's like, what the hell? Are you kidding me?
It sounds so utterly ridiculous that somebody would try to it's like you don't have the right to clean air. And so we're going to charge you for giving you a humidifier or something like that. Like, are you exactly, are you kidding me?
Right.
But this is how when greed overtakes people, then humanity basically fails to exist.
Right. Which is why we got to take the things that people have to survive. Those things never need to be privatized, and they need to be pulled out of private companies. The prison system needs to be pulled out of the private companies' hands, and we need to give felons back the right to vote. It's absolutely no reason why these people shouldn't have a right to vote. There is absolutely no reason. Even in jail, they should have a right to vote. They still live in this country, regardless of what they've done.
Do we even know like the reason that the right to vote was removed? Was even mentioned. Why would that even be mentioned? You know what?
Why is it? I've never heard a legitimate reason as to why criminals lose the right to vote. I've never heard of a legitimate reason why. And believe me, I've been asking.
Like we said, people, if you haven't seen 13th on Netflix, please check it out and leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let us know what how you feel about it. But it's very, very eye-opening. I think it was well done. It got several different people commentating on this particular film. Newt Gingrich was even contributing.
Contributing information, real information, and not lies.
Well, there are miracles. The sun, does shine every now and then.
We got a Christmas miracle this year.
But along the same lines, I was reading a story that happened here locally in Kansas City. It happened back in 1996 where this guy, his name is Ricky Kidd, he was convicted of murder of these two guys. What were their names? I just read it too. That's the sad part. But he was convicted of murder of two different guys. And he was basically saying, I'm not innocent. And the reason the story came back up now is because not only is the prosecutor saying that he didn't do it, they believe he's innocent, but also the police commissioner is saying he didn't do it, which is Alvin Brooks, which back then
I think
the original
he was police commissioner, and the current commissioner is saying it.
Oh, he's in government now. What is he? City
Alvin
council?
Brooks?
Yeah.
He's just an activist at this point.
I thought he was an activist back then, Mr. Ad Hoc Group Against Crime.
No, that's all he is now. He used to be
in
government. Yeah, he used to be in government. He ran for mayor, and after he lost, I don't think he did anything else.
But they're coming out saying that I guess at the time he looked like the guy, but there's evidence that proves that he didn't do it. But I guess maybe the DA is saying he's basically the time for him to appeal has passed, and also they don't think that he has enough new evidence for them to even reconsider him getting out.
Well, I think the time to appeal, that part I think is stupid and ridiculous. Yes, I understand we got to put time limits on things, but people who are in prison for murder, come on now. And I mean, not even murder. If you can appeal your case and you truly have a case, it should be heard. But one of the things they were saying was that he was he didn't have enough new evidence. Everything he was presenting was old evidence that had already been tried upon. Can
you imagine, he was saying no physical evidence. And then one thing that he said the public defender didn't present was that he had proof that he had an alibi because he was applying for a gun permit or something like that, and he had a witness with him at the time of the murders. So when the public defender doesn't present that piece of information, your alibi, then I feel like that at least warrants a relook at this investigation.
But the problem is it's kind of like double jeopardy. Once you try a person for a crime, it's done. regardless.
No. A lot of innocent people get out after being tried for a crime.
A lot
I don't
of
think that's
innocent
double
people
jeopardy.
get out, but they come up with different evidence that shows and proves that they didn't do it. He's got the same evidence. He's presenting the same case.
No, if his public defender didn't present this as evidence, then that's new evidence.
But that's new evidence.
That's what I'm saying.
Only new evidence. So what they're saying is everything else he's bringing to the table has already been looked at by a jury. So to some degree, I understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it. There's got to be maybe an adjustment in the law somewhere. But the law is there so that once a person is deemed innocent, you can't go back and say, bring this stuff back. Let's bring all this evidence back and put it in front of another jury and let them revote. You can't do that. That's why the law is in place. The laws are in place in actuality to protect the innocent. They really are. However, again, how you manipulate the system. A person like Ricky more than likely had a public defender.
Yeah.
A public defender has 50 million cases on his desk. He's working by himself 9 times out of 10. He might have a shared.
You're not going to get any sympathy from me about a public defender.
No,
Okay.
just listen to what I'm saying. He doesn't have any help.
I feel like you're making excuses for him.
No, would you let me finish?
I'm trying, but you keep going down this excuse road.
Let me finish so you can understand what I'm trying to say. A public defender has no help. He has no team. However, if you can afford, you got money in your pocket, you can afford to get Johnny Cochran, who got 2,001 people working for him around the clock. They pulling evidence for him, bringing it to the table while he's out there playing golf. He shows up in the court nicely rested, ready for trial. He's going to present his case better than a public defender is. I'm not trying to give an excuse for a public defender.
That's exactly what you did.
What I am trying to say is this is the system that is in place, and this is why people who are guilty, who have money, get away, where people who are guilty or not guilty, who are broke, don't. It's all about the lawyer. So these are things that we need to adjust. The law itself is pretty clear, and it's not really the problem. It's the people surrounding the law that manipulate the law to work for them. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. You don't like public defenders or something?
No. Especially when we hear situations like this where they didn't have the time, they were too tired, they had other things on their mind, whatever, to do the job. If you have somebody, whether you're well rested or whatever, and you're overworked, then you're the problem. You're the liability for this person. You're not
right.
taking the case serious.
You are right.
So you are a problem. I'm not saying that I'm not really trying to bash them, but I'm definitely not making excuses for them because why are you doing this? Why don't you do something else?
Okay, so then they do something else. Who's gonna take that? Who's gonna do it?
Somebody else.
You gonna be the public defender to work all these cases?
If I had a legal degree, I'd do it.
Okay.
I don't have a legal degree.
I wish you did, because I'd like to see how long you
if
lasted.
I had I'd be like DT. I'd lock you up if I had a degree.
I would go to jail.
Yeah, you would go to jail. Anyway, moving on real quick to this whole bus crash situation. Did you hear about it in Chattanooga, Tennessee? I think 6 kids got killed. Mm-hmm. What's strange and concerning to me about this whole situation is that the signs were there that my brother, what was his name? Jonathan Walker. He was, there were complaints about this man, his reckless driving, his lack of concern for the kids. I'm trying to understand how this went on for so long when complaints started coming in back in September from students, from parents of students. Even at one point, they said even the principal was like emailing people and like trying to question what's going on here. Why isn't anybody looking into this guy who's this bus driver and seems to care zero about these students? There have been complaints about him driving too fast. At some points, he would like slam on the brakes in order to make the kids' head slam into the back of the seat or whatever, make them fall. And I saw this video of one woman who lost her child in the accident. And she was saying, I wrote, to the school. I wrote to this the board. What do you call it? The school board. And telling them all of this because my child has been complaining about this. And, you have to ask, like, why didn't you remove your child from that situation? But in most cases, a lot of cases, they don't have that luxury.
Right.
They don't have any other way to get their kids to school. But she said this was presented, like she wrote a letter, the principal or somebody read it to the guy, and he was like, and what? Like he let them know he did not care about what was going on. It says in a statement, the school district acknowledged that its records contain many emails of complaint and concern about this guy's behavior. Like I don't understand how how they allow him to continue to put the lives of these children at risk when clearly he doesn't care.
Because they don't care.
That's what it sounds like.
That's the only thing I can come up with. They
and
didn't
then
care.
We get this, and I was thinking, okay, did you see the pictures of the bus? The bus was damn near like wrapped around a tree and flipped on its side. It was crazy, and it's sad at the same time. So you have to wonder. I thought, he was drunk, because clearly, when you basically disregard the lives of these kids and you cussing them out and you talking shit to the kids, they try to chastise you, and you're still like, and what? Like, what are you gonna do? I don't care. These little bad mother.
That attitude got him he's getting ready to put him right there in that prison system.
Right.
Because he ain't coming out.
I wanted to feel sorry for him.
I don't.
Yeah, I wanted to.
I don't.
Until I actually read like his attitude behind this whole situation. I'm thinking it was like a freak accident, and maybe, he just maybe fell asleep or something like that. I was hoping he was drunk, because that would have made more sense. But they said they didn't find any drugs or alcohol in the system, so he was just an asshole who didn't give a shit about these kids, driving any
Probably
kind of way
like
he
his
wanted
job,
to.
Didn't like his boss, and so he took it out on a bus full of little kids.
But you
didn't like his girlfriend, wife, mama, whoever, took it out on a bus full of little kids.
But that's...
like I said, I don't feel sorry for him.
I mean, I'm saying now I don't. I said I wanted to feel sorry for him, because it's like, my brother was probably going through, and I'm trying to make the same excuses as you made for the public defender, which I feel mine are more valid than yours. But
anyway,
clearly he just didn't care, and that bothers me, because a part of me can't rationalize somebody having such little respect for children. But then I have to remember where we are in society today.
I see it every day now. So it didn't bother me. I saw it and I was like, okay, well, he's going into the criminal system. He's in jail. He won't come out. And I'm not worried about it. But what bothered me is that was breaking news for like 3 days. We heard every aspect of what happened. But how many people heard about the crazy woman that hung the little kid in the basement at the daycare? I think that was in Michigan. I want to say one of them.
Did we talk about this?
We talked about it briefly.
Okay, I'm like, that sounds familiar. Yeah, okay, but no, it wasn't like 4 or 5 day news. No,
it wasn't news at all. I never saw it. I just happened to be scrolling through Facebook and I saw it and was like, what is this real? Scrolled down a few more and saw it from several different sources, and I'm like, what is going on? And finally I went and I got her name, and believe me, this was from sources that I wouldn't have normally believed, but I got the woman's name and I went and Googled her name, and that's when I saw a source here and a source there, kind of say, yeah, this did happen, and it started seeing it from sources that I would normally see.
Reputable.
But nobody's talking about it.
Which that kind of goes along the same lines as the basically increase again of hate crimes that we're seeing across America ever since this election went down. I heard about a young man who was killed by an older white guy, a young black man who was killed by an older white guy. I guess they bumped into each other, whatever. A conversation ensued, or argument rather, and the old man shot him. And, he told one of the detectives, I'm just, one less piece of trash or something like that. You shared a story on the Facebook page for Keep It Moving podcast about a musician guy who was, I guess, murdered or killed by 3 white guys or whatever, and they're kind of looking at that as a hate crime as well.
They're just popping up all over.
A Texas judge was on a Sacramento Facebook page. The Sacramento Police Department Facebook page, they posted a mugshot of a black suspect. I guess he's suspected of killing a police officer. The judge says, time for a tree and a rope. This is the judge. Somebody who's supposed to be impartial. Somebody who's supposed to, I guess, wait until the jury decides or, look at all aspects of the case or whatever. He hasn't been proven guilty. He's just a suspect. And the judge says, time for a tree and a rope. But this has been what America has become. America has always been, but we're seeing it more and more, and it's ugly.
It's like Trump went and basically said, this is our freedom to be racist.
As we want to be.
And nobody can stop us. But I keep telling y'all keep messing with black folks.
I like that T-shirt. What it say? Don't let your president get your ass whooped. I feel like that's
it's like you done lost it. I mean, don't get too cocky.
Yeah, we saw the guy on the Delta flight who was up calling the people the women like Hillary BITCHs and talking about he voted for Trump and all this crap.
It's just all over.
It's all over the place. And then the restaurant, I forgot where the restaurant was that held that conference or that meeting, didn't know that it was for the alt-right, aka the white supremacists. Mm-hmm. They came out later and apologized and donated some money to anti-defamatory campaigns or something like that. But this is where we are. In 2016, this is where we are.
Like I said.
And then Trump wants to come out and have a conversation about the Hamilton cast. But he don't want to come and address
he's not addressing this.
This situation.
Are you kidding me?
Because his people are doing his bidding.
I saw a video of, and I really don't know what happened before all of this. I have no clue. I just saw this little snippet of something happening in some town here in this country. And I don't know. I couldn't even tell you the details. All I know is it was a whole bunch of cops. It had to be like 20, 30 cops in a line surrounding people in a neighborhood. And these men, black men, standing up and saying, you know what? I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of badge you got, but you touch one woman and it's on. And it was just as many black men as there were cops.
Was that the one where the cops tried to do something to the lady that was in the wheelchair?
I didn't see anything but that snippet. I haven't been able to figure out where the video came from and what it was because they didn't give any information. I just saw that snippet. And all of these men just screaming, touch one black woman, touch one black woman. And I'm thinking to myself, well, at least we coming together on something.
Yeah.
We
have to.
So don't get it twisted.
And this is
don't
one of the
think
things.
This is getting ready to completely reverse because black folks, not these black folks, they not going back into slavery. Not these black folks.
That's one of the things that a lot of people, are looking at as far as Trump being victorious in the election, what it's going to do to black people as far as them mobilizing and then unifying.
Right.
Because we are so divided. We are so divided, and we just don't care.
And we got to do better.
Sad.
We got to do better. I mean, one of my things is, we are saying that Black Lives Matter, but Black lives can't just matter when it comes to police killing Black people. Black lives have to matter with everything. We got to get involved. Black lives have to matter when it comes to government. Black lives have to matter when it comes to education. Black lives have to matter when it comes to every aspect of life, not just in the moment when cops are shooting us and killing us. Black lives have to matter, and Black lives have to matter to us. We've got to make changes in the things we're doing. We cannot sit here and protest and say, y'all doing wrong when we don't help our situation at the same time. So we've got to uplift that as well as start to uplift what we're doing in our own communities. We got to take care of one another. We got to stop looking at our neighbor as our enemy and start trying to figure out how we can work with our neighbor to become better.
I agree. And, yes, I agree. I'm not even. You're not done. You don't.
I said that's my rant of the day.
I feel like you got more coming. The last thing that I wanted to bring was the latest news we got from, I guess, this post-election era where in Wisconsin, Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, has announced, or I guess she filed for a recount in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And, this was big news to people because I guess Wisconsin is one of the swing states, right?
I believe so, yes.
So I don't know, what's going to come of this. But one of the things I was hearing before she actually filed, to have it recounted, first of all, I was wondering why her?
Because
you know,
it's not gonna make a difference.
It's not gonna make a difference in her, but in her campaign or her numbers. But maybe this was more so in backing Hillary, because at this point Hillary Clinton has over 2 million. She's beating
got more
by over
votes
2 million
than any white male president we've ever had. She got more votes.
And for her not to have won the presidency, it just doesn't
Those
make
swing
sense
states killed her.
Right. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And we started hearing like stories out of Wisconsin, certain counties where you had more people cast a vote for the presidential election than people who cast a vote. And it's like, how is that possible? And so this is when people are like, hey, wait a minute, something's not right here. And I think, some of the election officials came out and said, oh, we did, we projected this and blah, blah, blah. And they came and tried to correct it. But it makes you question, how many other counties, how many other states went through the same situation where they just, I guess, guessed at how many votes or just padded the votes, to sway one way, which swayed the election.
All of that polling and all of that crap that they do to try to figure out what president's gonna win and this, that, and the other, and allowing the votes to come in, and them announcing the president that night when they know good and dang on well it's gonna take another week to count those votes. That needs to stop. That all needs to stop. There should be no announcement until they actually have a final count. That way you don't sit there with people, you play with people's minds. This is part of all of that mess that they do, and let's just do it this way. We gonna tell them this and we gonna sell it this way. Black people are crazy. It's so this is why you need to be fearful of them, and then you create and generate hate. Here they got Trump as the winner. So what happens when the votes are recounted? And what happens if she actually did win? Then Trump supporters are going to say, oh, no. They rigged it. They went and did something.
Well, it's looking like he rigged. His people rigged it.
But it becomes unbelievable.
Right.
So all of that needs to stop. Announce the president once you have the final numbers. Kill the Electoral College. And announce the president when you have the final number.
For some reason, I'm looking at this particular situation as a reason the Electoral College is necessary.
No, it's not necessary.
Well, just because Hillary got the popular vote, I guess with 2 million, when she's leading by 2 million, then okay. If it was closer, then I would see it. So I take that back.
The Electoral College was there back in the 1800s because there was no TV, there was no internet. Some people had newspapers, but it wasn't news around the world. You just didn't know. You didn't have all the information as easily and accessible. So the Electoral College made sense. It doesn't make sense anymore. I can literally open my phone and there's thousands of notifications about what's happening around the world. I know what happens in Japan within minutes of it happening. We don't need this. This college can go away now. Bye-bye. They don't need to work there. I don't know if they get paid out of federal dollars. If they do, that's money out of my pocket that can go back into my pocket. Come on, let's stop now. This is nonsense.
And I feel like I was hearing like some of the Electoral College people like, hey, they're having protest votes against Trump. Like, I don't know how true that is, but this has been crazy. But you know what? One thing it did do is it gave me a little bit more hope for people. Seeing this vast amount of people that voted against the hatred and the bigotry, that made me feel a little bit better.
Numbers makes you feel better because at least then And it's like, okay, so if Trump comes into office now and tries to do his damage, at least I know that every white man ain't out to get me.
Right. And even with so many people not voting, she's still leading by over 2 million votes.
She kicked butt.
That makes me feel a lot better.
So all I can say is let's hope and let's pray.
And also, her camp has chimed in like, hey, they support the recount. They're backing Jill Stein, and I don't know why it wasn't. Was it she couldn't call for a recount herself?
I don't know if that was the case. I mean, she did say that whatever happened, she would go ahead and accept it. She wasn't going to fight it. And maybe she just didn't want to fight it. She wanted her to hold true to her word. Why, like you said, why is it that Jill Stein came out? Because was
I calling her Jill Scott?
No, you said Stein.
Oh, okay.
She, no matter how many votes they recount, she's still not going to win. But Maybe she's backing Hillary. Maybe she just don't want Trump in. I don't think that Jill Stein ever wanted Trump in. Actually, I don't think any of the candidates wanted Trump in. We got 5 living presidents of this country, and not one of those 5 presidents want Trump in office. The only people who want Trump in office are...
And you know what was strange about that? Going back to the 13th documentary, seeing what George Bush was putting out there, the father, and then looking at what Trump is putting out there, I'm like, you guys had some of the same ideals, but that's weird that he didn't want Trump to be in office. Maybe he saw the deeper demon that was inside of him.
And that's why I say I don't believe that when presidents sign things and sign bills, they always can see the full outcome. I don't believe all of these presidents are dirty and racist and all of that. And don't get me wrong, some of them are, but I don't believe that all of them are racist and that's why the system got set into play. I believe that the people manipulating the system, and I don't even believe it's about race. I think it's rarely about race and more about the color green than anything. They just trying to find a quick way to make money. The reality of slavery is slavery used to be it didn't matter what color you were. A slave, you could be a slave. They called them indentured servants and things like that. You could be a slave. The reason it worked so well with Africans is because you could not deny you were a slave if you were black. They knew by the color of your skin. So if you escaped from your master and you got away, no matter where you went, they would know you were a slave. I don't think it was ever about color. Now, don't get me wrong, as they have taught, brainwashing in the beginning has taught color. Let color be a guide. But the whole point was black people were easy to spot. You could not deny you were a slave if you were black. And if you do your research and do your history, now that's a true fact.
I'm not gonna argue, but I'm side eyeing you right now.
I see you side eyeing me. No, it is a true fact. You can do your research. I've already done my research on that one.
I follow you, and that's all I have. You had what's our educational tip for today?
Okay, so the 13th we did discuss lobbying. So I basically just want to give you some basics about lobbying. Lobbyists are really, all they are is activists who attempt to persuade the government to create legislation to benefit their group. Mm-hmm. That's all they are. You and I could be a lobbyist. When I pick up that phone and I call my congressman and complain, I'm lobbying for myself, for my household. Right. However, by government standards, I'm not considered a lobbyist. And this is the only reason why. Because I haven't taken my butt down to the county. And no, you can be a lobby for your state. You can be a lobby for your city, your county. You can be a lobbyist for anything. I haven't taken myself to the appropriate office to sign the paperwork and pay the fees.
What, you know how much the fees are? Because I would
actually... They vary.
I would pay for you to be a lobbyist. No, I feel like you'd make a good lobbyist.
That kind of time.
You got that kind of time.
No, I had that kind of time.
You might have to give up your dog, but you do have that kind of time.
But and it's not really that expensive. I think one of them was like $250 a year that I was looking at, $250 a year for your license, and then you have to.
But imagine you lobbying for your neighborhood, or for like your family or whatever.
And so basically,
people would pay that fee for you because you are speaking on behalf of us. That's why you have the tobacco company, and you got like all these other big entities, these big corporations. That they'll $250. Are you kidding me? They'll pay it to go and have somebody try influence legislation on their behalf.
And that's their. You know what? That is their. It is their American right. It's their freedom of speech. They can do that. There's nothing illegal about that. And the reality is we don't want that to go away because lobbyists are needed to educate lawmakers.
Right.
We got to educate the lawmakers on what we need because they're not in our
They
in
don't
our
know
household.
What's going on.
They're
here.
not in our community. Right. So we have to. Lobbying is not the problem.
It's when the money that comes into play.
Money is the root of all evil. My grandma used to say it, and she meant it, and she was so right. When it comes down to it, it's the money because, like you said, Disney can get 50 people to lobby for their one cause, but it takes us 50 people to hire one lobbyist.
Right.
Okay, so while Disney is sitting here every so many years changing and lengthening the copyright laws,
right,
to protect themselves, which I think they have every right to protect themselves in that. we sitting here struggling to get our government to see the importance of AIDS research, stem cell research, green
or
energy.
just clean water in Flint, Michigan.
Right, clean water in Flint, Michigan. No drilling up under the freaking river in North Dakota. I mean, so we
and
are
then having like the money to, instead of having the conversation on Capitol Hill, how about I send my private jet to pick you up and we have this lavish dinner in Paris and we talk
there
about
you
this.
go. Let's talk about, and all I gotta do is fill out some paperwork saying I met with this senator. This is what we discussed. It's nothing illegal about it, and it's nothing wrong with it, because it's just most everyday people can't afford to do it. Now, there's even laws governing it, like the Lobbying and Disclosure Act of 1995, and those are the laws that are in place to say, hey, you got to register, you got to disclose your clients, you have to tell us what's going on in your meetings with government officials. These are things that are in place to try to help and bring accountability to lobbyists. But hey, you know, they're not necessarily doing anything wrong. It's a lot of good in lobbying. The FDA there was positive lobbying when they made changes to the way food is packaged, so that all of these foodborne illnesses and salmonella and things like that, they have to remove those packages immediately. That saves lives.
Right.
So when lobbying is done for the interest of the people, it is good. But when lobbying is done for the interest of big business, it kills us. It kills us
especially
every
when it's
time.
big business that affects people. Like you mentioned with Disney, I would consider that big business, but that was just for their own personal interest, and it didn't affect.
It doesn't affect most people, but it does affect the artists. It does affect artists out there. But it's not necessarily a bad thing if an artist has a good contract in place. It's when the artist got screwed on the contract that it affects the artist. So lobbying with Disney is not a bad thing, but not necessarily a bad thing. But Citizens United, super PACs, this is one of the things Hillary Clinton said they had to go. Before super PACs, there was just simply PACs, and PACs are political action committees. They gather, fundraise, make money, and give that money to the potential candidates, and they use that money for travel, advertising, just the things that they need for campaign purposes, right? But super PACs, what they do is they raise an unlimited amount of money. They can keep their sources quiet. Nobody knows who they are. You don't know if it's a corporation, a person, a union.
Another country.
You have no idea. Or another country. You have no idea who it is funding them. And then they're pulling the strings in the background. So super PACs is where lobbying has gone wrong. They lobbied for this, and now this is legal. And you don't know, to this day, we don't know nothing about Donald Trump's money. Absolutely nothing. He has not disclosed it.
It's still.
He ain't going to disclose it.
Tax Lord
so when it's done right, it's a good thing. When it's done wrong, it's not. The problem is not the lobbying. The problem is who is the lobbyist, who has the power to lobby. And given the outsized role that lobbyists play in shaping shaping the laws for the public, we have got to understand and not only embrace lobbying, but we got to get out there and we got to get involved. So if you are somebody who's interested in getting into the political helm, lobby. Learn how to do it. All you're doing is persuading people. Learn how to do it. Get out there and do it.
Yeah,
if you don't want to do
really
it,
like researching what you're talking about and then having a cause.
The only way to beat the lobbyist is to vote. Because if you got a senator whose strings are being pulled by some big government, or not government, but some union or some corporation, and you see that,
vote them out.
Vote them out of office. Every 4 years, you get an opportunity to vote these people out of office. Stop sitting and get up and vote. Do your research. It doesn't take a lot of time to do the research on the people you're voting for. When I vote, I pull the ballot. I know Ballotpedia does one, but you can go to any of your city government websites and they will give you a sample ballot. Mm-hmm. I pull the ballot. I look at the judges that are on it. I look at the people that are on it, and I do my research on those people, and I make my decisions based off of their record and the things that they've done. And that's how I move forward.
Right on. So basically get involved.
Yeah.
Especially if you want change and you don't want the 2016 election happening all over again. You want somebody that's going to represent all of the people and not just some of the people, and you want someone that's going to represent you. That's really all we have for today. Did you have any other last comments?
Just get involved and unite. And the thing is, especially with minorities, we can't just unite with ourselves. We have to unite with ourselves, Black people, but we also need to unite with other races and other ethnic groups. You know, we are stronger together than we are apart.
That's all we got, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, you all take care of yourselves.
Good night.
Peace.